Hello and welcome to the Phoenix Incident live discussion on Stream.tv. My name's Thomas Hauser and I'm lucky enough to be here with Keith Arem, Yuri Lowenthal,
that's the one.
Yes, and the big one, Michael Adam Thwaite.
Yes, that's right. Thank
the
you.
writer, director, and two of the main actors on the film. So, the Phoenix Incident comes out tomorrow.
Yeah,
Finally, after like 3 years,
Yeah.
which is great.
So in theaters and video on demand.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the film?
Yeah, so the film it exposes the largest UFO military cover-up in U.S. history. And it's this conspiracy thriller. It's sort of what we call a docu-thriller because it's half documentary and half this conspiracy thriller that exposes the disappearance of these four men that took place the night of the infamous Phoenix Lights in Arizona back in 1997, and the conspiracies surrounding that and the military cover-up of what may have happened to these guys amidst this mass UFO sighting that almost 30,000 people in Arizona witnessed. And it was a fascinating event, and so for us, this was this epic journey for us as filmmakers to do this independent film and to be able to get it out to the audience. And we're fortunate enough to be in theaters and video on demand and creating this whole transmedia campaign around it.
Absolutely. Well, so a conspiracy theory that's dating back to 1997. Well, how do you go about making a film with all this footage that was released to so many people, and now you're creating a story that goes beyond that?
What's interesting was that where this story began, Arizona is this fascinating place because there's military there. The Heaven's Gate cult, which was a UFO cult, had been based there. In 1997, they started to have all this unusual sort of conspiracies that started to happen. You had the highest number of missing persons in the country per capita. Arizona continues to be the highest number of missing persons, the highest number of suicides, the highest number of unexplained cattle deaths. And in 1997, you had the Hale-Bopp comet that was coming by the Earth. And when people started to watch up at this amazing thing in the skies that you could see with the naked eye, under close observation, you could see the shadow behind the Hale-Bopp comet. And a lot of people thought that this may be a ship or some kind of an object. And the Heaven's Gate cult thought that this was a ship coming for them and this was going to be their exit from the planet. They had just been in Phoenix, and there had been some cult members that are there, and I think they still are there in Arizona to this day.
Wow, they still have...
Yeah, there's still a Heaven's Gate organization that's there. And so they went into red alert. And so while all these people were coming out to see the Hale-Bopp comet, this fleet of lights started at the Nevada border around 2 or 3 in the afternoon and went down south across the state through Paulden and Flagstaff and then across Phoenix. And you had 30,000 people that witnessed this. You had military and police, civilians. You had all these different people that were witnessing this amazing event. And they scrambled jets from Luke Air Force Base. They closed the airport for a period of time. And you had the vice mayor start an investigation into this. John McCain started an investigation into the lights. And the governor, who initially sort of dismissed it or sort of said that, you know, he made light of the situation, he comes out on CNN after he steps down from office and he says, I saw a craft with everyone else, and I saw a ship, and it wasn't from this earth. And so when you have the governor of a state coming out and saying that, that's a very powerful thing because it validated what all these people had seen. So we wanted to sort of use all these conspiracy theories that were starting behind this to become the basis of this film. And you can't really do that in just a normal documentary, and there's so many documentaries that unfortunately never get seen by the mass public. And there's a younger generation that wasn't even born during the time of the Phoenix Lights that we wanted to sort of inspire to start looking into some of these big UFO cases that originated around this. So we took this sort of fictional approach based on all the facts in the case, and we tell this sort of what-if story of what if these guys were on the ground and they witnessed this engagement with the military over these craft that supposedly, you know, went over Arizona, and that was the basis of the story. And the big thing was I was able to bring my friends along and start to, you know, take this evolution of our careers that we've been working in so many different fields outside of the film industry and bring this into this independent film.
And so, you know, you have this film that has these 4 people gone missing, and so the public has seen these people. Can you go a little bit into, you know, what was your decision on picking these 2 gentlemen to be your actors in the film?
So one of the things was that I wanted to tell a very human story in the middle of this very inhuman world. And so the first thing I was looking for was these guys that had disappeared. And we knew that there was some real cases that we wanted to base it on, but we weren't going to be able to get the life rights, and we wanted to make something where we could tell a very passionate narrative of these guys in their firsthand accounts. So when we were constructing this, I wanted to go to people that I was very familiar with, that I'd worked for a long time with. And at the same time, we knew that this was going to be this merging of so many different mediums. This is a documentarian who's going to be getting eyewitness accounts and military footage and eyewitness accounts and all these different sort of formats that we're going to bring together. And I wanted to have the first character be our cameraman, and not in the traditional found footage sense, but back in the 90s, before GoPros were around, these guys were sports enthusiasts that would take these old DV cameras and put them on their helmets and try to take all these different stunts. And so I started talking to Yuri about this project, I think probably really early on, like 2010 maybe or so. And
way
so
before I came anywhere near the scene.
And Yuri and I had started working together in the video game space. And Yuri is this amazing actor who's worked on how many hundreds of games now have you counted? Several hundreds of games.
I think it's
several
700.
games. Several 700s. Lots of games.
Lots of games.
And actually, the first game I think we worked on was what we didn't work on that we met on. Was Prince of Persia.
Yeah, that's right.
And
the sequel. That was where we met. And while it didn't work out for us to work together on that game, our friendship blew up like immediately.
And I think that was the thing, is that the first session that we had, it was just an audition. It was the end of the day, and they're having you audition against the character that you had already done before, which is so obnoxious to do. But he's got to do it.
It's the way it goes.
But needless to say that we found out we have the same birthday and we have the same interests, and instantly friends. But the nice thing is that when you have the opportunity to make a film and you have the opportunity to cast a film, or at least be have the decision to work with people that you really believe in these characters, and writing the film and directing it, I knew that I needed to go to these guys that I really could trust as actors, who could bring these performances to the next level, and also who were just naturally who they were. This wasn't something that I was trying to have them play someone that was beyond what I knew them as. And so when I brought in Yuri and Travis Willingham and Liam O'Brien and Troy Baker, these are guys that we worked with in the game industry for years. And I sort of wanted to base it on this friendship that we had and they had with each other. And we went out to Arizona, and what year was that? Was that 2011? Maybe 10?
Was it 11?
Maybe 2010.
Yeah, 10 or 11.
And so we actually went out there with the basis of this story, and we went out to the Estrella Mountains, where this incredible sighting actually took place, and
broke federal laws together. Lucky to be here at all. Not incarcerated.
Is it a misdemeanor or is it?
Let's not even go into it.
Yeah, no.
And these guys stayed in character the entire weekend that we went out, and we sort of followed the journey of what these guys had gone through back, in '97. And so in character, we recorded everything, and we shot what became the basis of our movie as this 20-minute short film. And it was so compelling. It was so great to watch, because we weren't able to, we weren't going to ever do anything. This wasn't going to be a short that was ever going to be shown anywhere.
It was more like a proof of concept. But
the performances and the stories and the characters that we already were fleshing out now were real. And in fact, some of that footage is in the final picture. It actually made it into the movie because it was so compelling and so fantastic. And at the same time, I'm continuing to work on these great video games, and I start working for another project for Ubisoft, which is going to be the next Rainbow Six game. And I fly up to Montreal, and they're bringing all these Canadian actors in, and we're casting for all these great Canadian actors. And so we started researching actors in Toronto and Montreal and in Vancouver, and we sent out these casting teams in each city to bring in these actors. And I always, for a first casting session, I always request not to be there. I always like to see the actors with their first instincts, without a director giving them any feedback, just directly to the casting team, and also seeing how they are as people. And in walks this guy. This guy with this beard, this long beard, and this shaved head, and this dark black trench coat. and scares the crap out of everybody watching this tape. Anyone, this guy's going to play the villain in Rainbow Six, and it's a pretty aggressively abusive scene too.
It was.
It's a
there was
really,
some knife stuff, and there was some very interesting
and very intimate stuff.
Very intimate stuff.
And he just brought it, and I was like, without a doubt, this guy. And we cast Michael, and I got to meet him, and we were in Montreal in the middle of the snow, and we were just trying to get on Wi-Fi in this little hotel.
We went to the lobby because that was the only place where the Wi-Fi existed, and I don't know why some hotels have this like little hub, but I'm really glad that hotel had this tiny little room, because Keith was there checking his messages. I was going down to message with my wife, and as we were messaging our wives, we were chatting, and then before we know it, we put our phones down, and we were just chatting, like, oh yeah, no, she's fine. And we're just chatting 4.5 hours later, it's like almost midnight.
How I met you, same
4 hours just chatting. So we both recognized right away, I'm like, this is someone that I can call kin. This is someone who has a rabid mind like me that's just impossible to stop, and I think it really is just the root of the genius. So I'm incredibly grateful for that job, even though it got sort of extended development status.
Well, I mean, we've seen, because I've done, I think, 4 of the Rainbow Six games and at least 4 or 5 of the Ghost Recon games, and we see these different iterations that have been developed over this. And that version of the game, as much as all this work we put in, I don't think ever saw the light of day.
I don't think it ever made it.
But what it did was it brought us together in a big way.
Yeah.
And I was just starting to work on this, and we were just doing this proof of concept, and I said, and I knew that the Heaven's Gate had been involved in this sighting and some other things, and I said, there's a guy that I want you to play. And I just kind of told him about it. And the funny thing was that
it was like a 10-second conversation. I was like, I'm in.
And so then he goes and he sets up a set in his garage. Right?
In my garage.
And I had just described to him this just kind of vaguely, and kind of told him a little bit about it. And then I ended up sending him this one scene that we were going to do. And it was a pretty violent scene. It's kind of an Easter egg in the movie. If you get to see the film in theaters especially, there's this thing after the credits that you'll see this was the basis of. And he did that scene all on his own, and he goes to a friend who's a makeup artist from Stargate.
Yeah, there was a friend of mine, John, and he had been working on a film, so he was already on set doing makeup. So I called him up and I was like, John, I know you've got a studio space and all this other stuff, but you're also on set. There's this thing I'm really excited about I gotta do, and I wanna do like some stuff. I want to carve up my face and do some stuff.
And the idea that this character is, and as you'll see in the film, I mean, he gets attacked and he's been scarred and it's affected his eye. And actually, I think that was your audition. And he goes and he has this eye prosthetic.
John puts in a prosthetic. He does all this stuff, and then because I'm like an hour and a half from my home, from where they're shooting to where I live, so I get in my car and I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be a long drive. I'm like, okay, I kind of have to hold my hand up and be like, I can kind of see, but not really see because it's like blanked out. And I'm like, well, I gotta do it. I gotta go to the drive-through. I look like hell, warmed over. I gotta scare somebody. So of course, that poor girl at McDonald's.
He goes to McDonald's.
That poor girl at McDonald's. Here's your bag, sir. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It's makeup.
I wonder if he knows about his eye.
He's like, the eye is. Dude, the eye's dead. Okay, so it's dead. So yeah, my neighbors figured I was killing someone in my garage.
Right.
And so we're getting into pre-production on this film, and in comes this video from Michael, and he
starts showing it to all of us, and
he's doing it to camera, and it is terrifying. And he adds in sound effects, and he adds in everything to this audition. It was so awesome.
It was like, all you
pre-production.
All you kids out there who want to know exactly how far you have to go to get the part,
you sometimes gotta do some big stuff.
You gotta do that.
You gotta scream at yourself in your garage at 3 in the morning.
Go all the way.
And then call all your neighbors and apologize.
Yeah.
And what's amazing is that what the careers that you guys have in games and in film and in television is spectacular, and yet so many people know you for your voice or for motion capture.
Yeah.
And
I've been Mr. Invisible nearly my whole career, with the exception of a few small things.
Right, and once again, I gotta thank you for just going to the guys that you wanted and just saying these are the guys, and not putting it to the money people or whatever to saying, oh, we gotta get a name.
Some people tried, but he sent them packing.
Yeah.
He's
well, there's tremendous pressure.
Always,
that's the interesting thing as a filmmaker, is that you're really in this position where you need cast cast, right? Because
Yeah.
if you're gonna, when you're raising money for a film, a film gets financed in three main ways. You have you have private equity, you have foreign pre-sales, and then you have tax incentives. And those are the three main ways that all these films get made. And in a film like this, we're shooting out in Arizona. There's no tax incentives. We don't have any cast or anything else that we can go to Germany or Spain and say this is starting this celebrity, so they don't know. And I'm at this point, even though I've done hundreds of video games as a talent director, no one knows that in the film space, so that doesn't add any value to it. So you're going all private equity, so it's all your money in doing this. And so in doing a low budget film, the advantage that you do have though is that you're working with your friends and you're doing something that you're really passionate about, and you don't have somebody over your shoulder telling you how to do that. And that's that's just enough rope to be a noose
hang yourself
to hang yourself.
by. Right.
And the other thing, I think the benefit that we can all agree on as audience members first, because we all watch media, we all watch film, we all watch as avid, we're all in the industry and we enjoy it.
Because we love this.
Because we love it. But also, I always find it difficult to dispel the disbelief, because I recognize someone. I'm like, oh, that's so-and-so. Oh, he's in it's a kooky situation. He's playing.
Well, and at the time, and this is what was interesting, was that I knew that, at the most part, everyone that we're working with is really known for their voices and their performances in the games. But on camera, not so much. I mean, you've done, I think, at the time, especially more than anyone, were probably the most recognizable when we started doing the project. And so I'm like, well, if this is going to be a real documentary kind of piece,
we want to hide some things.
So Yuri made the best cameraman because
we didn't see his
right.
We just heard him.
But at the same time, you needed to be there for all the shooting. And so we had to sort of envision this idea that not only does he have this early version of this GoPro, so he's recording all these amazing stunts and these things, and we had Metal Militia, and we had all these other guys out there
doing all the stunts, the jumps, the motocross jumps.
Yeah, and you'll see a lot of the stunts in the film. They're all real stunts, and we did some really interesting things. And unfortunately, we had you go out on a motorcycle as well, and almost killed you.
I tried. I'm like, I've ridden a motorcycle before.
Yeah,
I can probably do the simple stuff, right? and I warmed it up for a while, and I tried, and you could tell I just looked too nervous about the whole thing.
You looked great, but then I think after about like 8 laps, you were about to go and do this. And there's a scene that you'll actually see in our trailer, and it's definitely in the film. And the idea was that we had our stunt guy from Metal Militia in the same outfit as you, and we had 2 bikes that were matched. And the idea is that Yuri's there as Glenn, and he's about to do the stunt with the whole cast. And so he's talking to everyone, and then he goes out, and as he goes out, the stunt guy comes in and then does his jump, and he actually does a flip, and it was amazing to see this guy practice, because this guy from Metal Militia is just going out there and he's just looping this bike and just stunt after stunt, and
it looks great in the trailer. It's amazing.
But so the problem was that we wanted to make sure that Yuri was going to be comfortable riding out that far, because he had to do it on his own pretty fast, because we had to do that switch. And I think it was on the 8th or 10th one, and we were about to go, and the bike went down, and I was like, I'm gonna kill Yuri, and like, your wife is never gonna let that.
I know.
It was.
I know.
Yeah. And
plus, they had me, learn it, warm it up on a smaller bike, and then they're like, to match it, you got to have the same size bike as this guy, and they put me on this giant monster bike, and I was just like, oh god, and you could see it in my body, I'm sure. It was the right decision to go with our Metal Militia guy for the whole thing.
But you ended up doing this incredible dance throughout the entire film,
right there,
it's great to be able to do that. And I think that if maybe we can go into one of the trailers, we might be able to see some of that in the beginning of our trailer. So can we cut to that?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. Let's take a look at that.
In 1997, you took part in one of the largest military cover-ups in United States history.
That's correct. They've been here before. Belgium, Osaka, Roswell, those are recon missions. But Phoenix was different.
All across the state of mysterious flying objects in the sky and what many are already calling the largest UFO sighting in North America.
Congress doesn't even know if this happened.
Like this.
What's that one behind that one there?
They were testing our weakness, testing our capabilities. It was only the beginning.
Wow.
So in the narrative version of our trailer, we'll see the stunt and coming in from there. But what we were talking about was this amazing sort of dance that we had with Yuri and our cinematographer Brandon Cox.
B. Cox, yeah.
And you should tell them just about how that went down. I guess even how did you guys even figure that out? Because that was the wildest part.
It was just a lot of practice. I mean, we got along really well, which helped. But you know, for 99% of the filming, he had the camera, and I was right over his shoulder
like
the
Velcro
whole time.
Suits, like
right. And the big thing is that you had to interact with all the other actors in the scene, and us coming from the game industry, you know, we do a lot of motion capture, and we have to do something where we have 200 cameras, and we're doing things, you know, all in the round. Even when you were working on Planet of the Apes, on the new Planet of the Apes, are you guys working on the same kind of mocap stages that you do in video games, or was
the mocap stages really weren't that different on Apes? And of course, this is the third film. They have learned a lot, but really, when you think about the industry standard and the technology and the way that everything is moving up, we can, in so many ways now, get rid of some technology. So it's like, you know, again, it's a carpeted floor, it's a grid ceiling, it's covered in mocap cameras, and you know, it's gray suit, it's diodes, and it's the helmet cam with the rig, and there's all of that stuff. The technology hasn't really changed much as far as capturing on the floor, but the stuff that they're doing now with the live render, like I'm talking on the floor, and it's real time. And the characters on screen are so beautiful. And of course, you talk to the techs, and they're like, "That's the most garbage render ever. I need like 6 million layers on top of that." So. It blows my mind.
Well, and the benefit to that is that you get the actors together performing, and you're really recording in the round. And that's one of the things coming out of the game industry is that, you know, we aren't doing these scenes that are 3 or 5 minute scenes all together.
No, and you don't have to reset to cut to my, you know, footage. You know, okay, we're going to do your side, and then we got to reset.
Right.
You're capturing every single square inch of space in the entire volume simultaneously. And the way the new virtual cameras have come about, you can have 20 people in a battle scene, or you can have 6 people playing thousands, and it just it really has totally revolutionized everything. But for the most part, I think I think the tech is really borrowed so much from games. I mean, even pre-Avatar, you were using helmet cams and rigs. So
we
really
built all of our rigs for PC.
Yeah, everything was built custom.
And that was the idea for this film, was that for those recovered footage parts of the film that weren't part of the documentary, when we're actually with the guys and we're starting to see the footage from that night before the ship crashes, and we're actually seeing the military involvement, that everything that we had to do was all one continuous shot. Even the news clips that we did, or the things with Gason, everything had to be all in one take. And that was a real challenge, not even on larger film sets, but especially on a smaller one like ours, because you have to make sure that the camera can go anywhere. And to that effect, we were creating camera rigs where B. Cox could go out on set, and we actually built a helmet with the real rig.
Hopefully one of those photos comes up with him with the helmet, because it's the most ridiculous looking helmet out there.
And we're out there in the middle of the desert where the actual sighting took place, and we're shooting all this stuff. And that's all pre-Aliens. That's before we actually get into the action. Just doing our scenes. So this whole dance that you have to do with the cinematographer to be with all the other actors, and then we're shooting in 360, and he's moving around, and you're having to duck down while he's looking
close.
this way.
We got close.
A lot of jokes about friction. And some pocket contents. Like that's a wallet, right?
That was a wallet. I carried my wallet all the time.
In the front, just to mess with them.
So these are all kind of the fun things we got to do, just because we knew each other so well, and we knew that we were going to get these performances, and you can just see kind of just how we are anyway. It's just like you can just let us go, and we'll just kind of wind us up, and we'll never stop. But that's what it was like filming on this, you know, because we were compressed time schedule. We did 14 days. We shot the film in 14 days, and then we had 4 additional pickup days after that we were going to finish the film.
And I had to come in and out twice, so I didn't help much. I should have just stayed the whole way through.
From Canada.
Oh yeah, us Canadians always causing problems.
Right.
Well, you know, so you obviously have a lot of attention to this conspiracy dating back to 1997. So you've probably gone into a lot of planning to bring awareness back to this film. So can you talk a little bit about what you all have done in order to bring in an audience and really promote your film?
Well, we really knew that there was going to be three main audiences for the film. There was going to be the UFO audience at its heart, because this is the largest UFO sighting in U.S. history, mass UFO sighting in U.S. history. And then we also knew that there's going to be the thriller, action, found footage audience because of the nature of how we put the film together. And then there's also the gaming audience. And for us, all coming from the gaming industry, and me, directing titles, and these guys working in the games, and us producing and doing things for so long, that's really our audience. And we knew that there's this younger generation of viewers that love the idea of aliens and sci-fi, but maybe don't know all the historical research, and we knew that we were going to bring in that audience as well. So when we decided to do this film, we had a lot of offers from some larger studios, and some we went down the path almost to the point where we actually had a very big deal that unfortunately didn't go forward because the studio went under. And we realized that we had this opportunity with an independent film to be truly independent. And in doing so, we could cut all these very entrepreneurial deals with some amazing technology partners, and we decided to treat the advertising and the marketing and the distribution of the film much like a video game. And so we've teamed up with companies like Steam, with Loot Crate, with Shazam, and then we're also to be able to work with people like Fandango for doing movie tickets and promotions. We worked with Fathom Events, which was part of AMC and Regal and Cinemark, and we did a 200-city premiere with the film last month, and they played our trailer before Deadpool and The Revenant. And so all of a sudden, this little independent film is getting the same attention that a studio film can. And along with this, we're also shooting additional footage that expands the narrative, the backstory of these characters, the cult involvement, other parts of the UFO sightings, the military cover-up of this mass sighting, and it's too much to put into a motion picture. A film is a linear experience that you sit back and watch, but there's so much to interact with when you're trying to do research and you're looking up something. And I wanted people to come out of this movie and start Googling and finding all this other historical research about these sightings, and specifically all the facts in this case. So we started shooting all these different story threads, as we called them, and you would follow these threads online. There would be, maybe we have almost 24 websites now that are furthering the narratives, and there's UFO sites, there's news sites, there's missing persons sites, and these all tell the backstory and continuing story of what happened in this. And we are now developing this interactive app that is going to be this 4-hour experience that has all the motion picture material in it, as well as our viral campaign. Our viral campaign has generated almost 20 million views now, and it's gone worldwide on thousands of websites, and people have been interacting with it, not even knowing that's part of our movie, and that has been this interesting approach for us to tell a narrative in real time with our audience, and they contribute back, and sometimes we hit a pocket of a fan base, or sometimes people get, they think something's real. We had the Department of Justice come in and find one of our websites and threaten us, and they threatened some imprisonment and some hefty fines because they thought that we were bounty hunters trying to track down these missing guys from our cast.
And you were being investigated at another point in time by one of, was it the mayors?
We had the mayor's office, investigate us, and we had private investigators, and it's amazing because so many people just want to know what's going on. They just want to know the truth, and they want to be able to do this. And that's sort of the message behind this film, is that we want to promote this idea of disclosure. We want our government to not hide behind some redacted files in a Freedom of Information Act, file. We want to find out what's going on. And Canada and the UK and other places have released their UFO records. And to that point, we met with Nick Pope from the Ministry of Defense, from the former Ministry of Defense in the UK, and Alejandro Rojas from Open Minds, and he runs the International UFO Congress. And we met with Stanton Friedman, with the original person who kind of revealed a lot of the Roswell files, and Lee Spiegel from the Huffington Post. And these guys come and they sit down and talk to us, and we did this roundtable discussion that we broadcast with the Fathom event we did last month. And these guys talked for an hour and a half, similar to like what we're doing here, but they're telling us all these historical cases of other places where we've engaged these black triangle craft, and we've fired on certain ships, and this amazing involvement that our military and our government has had on these big cases that the public sometimes doesn't know anything about. So this film is sort of promoting that. And at the heart of it, we still have this very human story about these guys that disappeared and the lives of these real men that experienced this pretty horrific event.
Yeah.
And with Michael's character, the fact that the Heaven's Gate, the week after this sighting, took part in the largest mass suicide in history, in U.S. history.
They drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, and it was pretty horrific, and the idea that Gason sort of represented what may have happened to these guys, and here's a guy who's held for questioning in the disappearance of these guys, potential murder in this, but he never serves trial, and ultimately has much deeper roots to the story, and that's going to be explored more on the Viral campaign as well. So that was, I think, for me, a really interesting way to tell a transmedia story, something that isn't just a motion picture, it isn't just a website, it isn't just a book. There's so many different facets to this, and I think that that's kind of where independent film has a real advantage over some of the studio pictures, because now we can tell stories on a variety of mediums, and we're just not locked into.
Well, you can tell it for longer. You're not just walking into a movie, getting your snacks, and you walk out and you talk about it a little, and then you go on about your evening, you know, your life. This is something, as an audience member, and I guarantee people are going to be really excited about this, you can leave the theater. You can straight out pull out your phone or iOS, whatever device, and you can spend not minutes, not hours, but days and weeks
continuing the movie
to delve into this world even further. That's your choice. You can go as far down the rabbit hole as you want, and I guarantee this man has made enough content. You can spend the rest of your year getting all the information that you crave.
And it really is bridging the gap between, you know, the work that we've seen done in games
and the
work
interactivity.
in film. You know, it's really coming together, because you can, you know, in a game there's so many different paths you could take, and you know, to that story you can't
spend
just write a
6
linear
hours
story.
just looking for coins.
Right, exactly.
It's like all the extras.
And we have so many conspiracy theories because, and that's the thing, it's all based on real events. That's the thing that was great, that even though we wove our narrative through this, these were all actual events.
And to that point, other people have been contributing aspects to that. There was a gentleman who went online and had a series of YouTube videos, fairly lengthy YouTube videos,
just trying to debunking
PCB, debunking the movie, debunking all these people involved, and saying, oh, that poor man, Walt Gason, they're exploiting that man, and they're exploiting his freedoms have been violated. And of course, I instantly, he texted me, like, he's like, you got to watch this video. This guy's insane. He actually goes online and defends you.
Yeah.
And
as a real
human being that has
endured
all these things.
Aliens did this and not
aliens
one of our
did this, and he was coming to my defense, and I'm like, I'm so heartfelt and just.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. It's not about, you know, do people believe in UFOs or do they not believe in UFOs. It's about starting that conversation and letting people explore whatever way they want to go. Because we're not telling you one way or the other.
And we actually have, I think, one of our trailers that we're going to show right now explores on one of the other conspiracy theories that's part of Operation Snowbird. And maybe we can show them that trailer, and then we can talk about that next.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right on.
Phoenix area residents are missing tonight after a local camping trip in the Estrella Mountains.
Despite the efforts of the Arizona County Rescue, officials continue to scour the area by ground and in the air.
Look, they're coming this way. Jesus, that's a UFO.
It's not a UFO. Those are flares, dude. Come on.
The Phoenix Lights. Tonight, lights in the sky.
Phoenix, Arizona talking about one of the nation's largest UFO sightings.
Hundreds of panicked 911 calls, reports to local authorities. Airport officials were prompted to temporarily suspend flights as the strange lights crossed over Sky Harbor airspace.
You're telling me that those are flares dropped from fighter jets and you want to go closer? I mean, I just have a bad feeling about this. I think we should go home right now. Those are 15s, look how fast they're going! Seen anything like this? What's that one behind that one over there? I don't know, it's not a 15.
In 1997, you took part in one of the largest military cover-ups in United States history.
That's correct.
You think this was a conspiracy?
Absolutely. Something happened out there in the desert.
And that has never been fully explained.
It's on the map! Yes, it's right over there, look!
We were not prepared for anything like this. Nobody is. Congress doesn't even know if this happened.
What the f is that?
And that's it. That's it.
It's making me I've seen the movie like 5 times, and I still get excited when I watch the trailer.
And it's funny because we got to do everything ourselves. You know, it's like between making the film, shooting it, editing it, all that kind of stuff. And I love just getting to watch the trailers just because you feel so closely attached to it. If you hand it off to a marketing department or some other division, it's someone else's takes. You know, and rightfully so, they do great jobs, you know, with doing this. But when you're the filmmaker and you're responsible for, you know, bringing this together, it's
and from the actor standpoint, it was just win for me because it was we get to do the movie, we get to hang out as friends, you know, in the middle of the desert and you know, make this movie and run around and play aliens. You know, I mean, it was
And you know, and to that point, I mean, we're doing night shoots for a week and a half or so, and you're on this crazy schedule, and we're coming back at like 6 in the morning.
That was my favorite. That schedule was my favorite. Was the best and worst part.
Solid.
Because we would wake up at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We'd go out to set. We'd start around 5 and around sundown. We'd shoot all night. We'd show up back at the hotel, you know, which is the end of our day, at 6 a.m. and we'll go out to the pool and start drinking
around
the pool. And you've got all these businessmen staying at the hotel.
And they're like, whoa.
They would show up, you know, to get ready for getting like 7 a.m. and just drunken debauchery around the pool. Like, who are these people? It's 7 a.m. They're, you know, going full bore.
And we're dirty.
But the hotel couldn't really.
Dirty.
Yeah, it was terrible.
We took over that hotel though. I mean, we dominated the hotel.
Yeah, so the hotel couldn't tell us to not do that.
No. Yeah, we had like
I'll tell you,
rooms.
it was hard getting off that schedule when I got home. You know, of staying up all night, drinking in the morning, and then sleeping the day.
But anytime you get off a project and you go into post-production, you start doing things like visual effects and all that other stuff. It's like that's all his work.
Yeah.
We get cut out early, and it's really hard.
Yeah,
it's hard on us. We just want to be there for every step.
And I felt bad because I would have to, after we would get back, I would get maybe 3 hours of sleep, and then I'd have to go back and then scout the next location. So I'd be there at maybe 11 or 12.
You mean 2.5 hours of worry and about 30 minutes of actual shut-eye?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
It's amazing you came out of this project alive.
I know. But, you know, it's like I don't sleep anyway. So
we'll talk about post. You got all these effects.
Yes, I mean, the best part for me was that I knew post more than I knew actual production. This was my film school. Right. This is my first film, so you know, going from games into motion pictures was just like there's so much to learn, and again, that's why I wanted to surround myself with friends going in on that process.
So that's
something that I just knew I was going to be able to trust you, and you guys did just an amazing job. And so then going into post, I was very comfortable in that space, and they really talk about, you know, you make the film, you know, when you're writing it, then you make the film when you're shooting it, and you really make the film when you're editing it.
Yeah. They're all different films.
And then some people have to kill the film when they give it away to be marketed.
Well, and you actually, you know, the funny thing is, as a filmmaker, is you come up with stuff on set that is just, you're so passionate about that you didn't expect, and you just want to put it in the film, but it wasn't part of the script, and it doesn't fit the structure of the movie. And when that happens, that's you're killing, you know, the things that you love, because they are such fascinating and amazing scenes that you just can't use. And so that was one of the tough parts learning as a film director, was that going in and realizing that you can't use all of this. But then we got to start to play, and we start to get to bring in, you know, great audio teams and great visual effects teams, and we brought in George Lucas and the guys from Baked Effects.
Different
George Lucas. Yes, I actually
better George Lucas.
I actually have to say that I did offer George a little bonus if he took the O out of his last name. You know, they just got it, you know, confused with Skywalker. Yeah, and ILM.
We're not going to tell you you're wrong.
Just mistaken identity.
But George's team had they did the dragons from Game of Thrones, which was fantastic.
Have any of you heard of that show?
Yeah,
and
I'm sure it's been out.
And we didn't ever expect that we were going to be able to get that level of visual effects
Mm-hmm.
in a film our size, because we were going to build prosthetics, we were going to hide them all in shadows, and suddenly we
go
were
the Jaws way. But
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't, because having seen the film, I got to say, they're breathtaking.
Yeah. And they're not even
amazing work.
the real aliens that are piloting these ships. You know, some people have a question like, why would these aliens come out and attack these, these guys with these vicious things if they're piloting these ships? And they're like, guys, if you have a military ship that's getting shot down, you've got the pilots, you got the captains, and you got the infantry. And our guys are not going to be experiencing, they're not going to be interacting with the pilots.
No.
So we're going to be seeing the pilots in one of the next iterations of the movie and next sequel or something else, which is going to be in the works right now. But it was great to be able to work again with more friends and people to be able to bring all that to this film, and then weave in all these conspiracy theories on top of that and bring those to life. And so,
because all you got to do is, your victory is you get people thinking about it, and tied up in the conspiracy.
Just conversation starters. Every single point that can be made will eventually be made by someone if it hasn't been made before. The point is that round tables will happen. People will get bent out of shape and excited and passionate, and I'm sure we'll have to
yell at us on
yell at a
Twitter.
Bunch of people.
Right. I'm sure Twitter will explode with all sorts of.
Twitter will yell at me with full caps. I'm sure.
And I think that's the thing is that for me as a first-time filmmaker, I wanted to do something that was different. If I just did a traditional narrative on $1 million budget, you can do a lot of great things for $1 million, but to get a theatrical release like we're getting with all of these amazing partners, to do this transmedia campaign, to do everything else, I just needed to do something that was viral in nature, especially with the story, and also something I think that was going to inspire the audience to keep interacting with the film. And if I just did that with a narrative, it would have been fine. If I just did that with a documentary, it would have
narratives have been done before, documentaries have been done before. What you've accomplished has never been done before.
Well, and I know, there's some people that just won't like this style of film, and that's totally fine. But the nice thing is that we're winning awards. All the festivals we're doing great. We're at least 9 festivals right now, and we're up for Best Horror Film. We just won Best of Fest at the Ice Film Festival. We won the Vision Award at the Boston Sci-Fi Film Festival. And audiences are really resonating with this, and they're realizing it is a different type of film. And so I hope everyone gets to see it in theaters, because it's going to be theatrically. I think you can go to Fandango.com to look up Fandango.
We'll tell you. Type your zip code into Fandango, and it'll tell you where the Phoenix Incident is. The closest theater might be hundreds of miles from you, but
fill up your gas tank.
I think there's 13 cities that are initially launching. We did 200 cities with Fathom Events, and then we have 13 new cities, and we're going to platform from there. It'll also be day and date on video on demand, so iTunes and
so immediately
all
those platforms,
Amazon, and all those other platforms will be there, and then eventually it'll be out on DVD and Blu-ray.
And there's PhoenixIncident.com.
So then, to get more information, you go to PhoenixIncident.com, and you can get some of the meta information behind the movie. But for some of the viral stuff,
you gotta dig.
So check into MaricopaMissing.com. Check into KWBVNews.com. What's another one that AmericanCrimes.tv. So these are some rabbit holes that'll get you into some of the viral campaign, and there's dozens of them out there, and we spent
and even
2
more
years.
Easter eggs.
Yeah, there's a lot of Easter eggs in the movie and outside, so we encourage the audience to kind of check them out and have fun with that.
To go deep.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, the truth is coming, it sounds like.
Definitely is.
It's definitely out there, and I want to believe.
That's right.
I definitely want to believe.
I want to believe.
Could we possibly see a little bit more?
Yeah, let's check out one more clip from the movie.
Great.
Let's do it.
Yay.
More stuff. More stuff. There's so much stuff.
Fantastic stuff.
And that conspiracy theory, by the way, the Operation Snowbird from that clip is like probably the most powerful of all of the conspiracy theories because everyone says, oh, the Phoenix Lights, they were just flares. And what we found out is, yeah, there were flares, and we're not denying it. In the movie, we actually come out and say that there were flares that night, but they were part of Operation Snowbird, which was
a smoke screen.
There was a distraction operation that went on.
See the dogfight.
That's right. So, but yeah, to see the rest of it. That's right. Everyone can join us in theaters tomorrow. It's actually for us here. It's on April 8th, so it's going to be nationwide. So if you can find it, hopefully
Fandango,
and
VOD. So Amazon, iTunes, all over.
And we're going to be doing some stuff with Steam, so it'll be out on Steam. And if you're with Loot Crate, check out Loot Crate, because lootcrate.com is going to be carrying some stuff and doing some promotions with us. We're going to be doing stuff at Roswell this summer, which is going to be great.
Yeah,
Roswell is headlining the movie in Roswell. And we're actually going to be doing something in the original hangar where the Roswell ship was recovered. So we're going to continue to tour with the film and doing some really cool stuff.
I'm going to steal something from
leading all the way up to San Diego
Comic-Con.
Comic-Con.
Take a little piece of Roswell home. Don't tell anybody, but I'm stealing something. I haven't decided what yet.
You just told the internet.
Shh. They'll keep my secrets, won't you guys?
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. The Phoenix incident tomorrow.
That's right.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for joining us on Stream.tv.
Thanks. Take care.
Thanks so much, Stream.